Premise.
Howdy.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos, by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another rootin' tootin' episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 464, recorded Monday, February 26, 2024. Tonight we're talking about another Patreon pick. This was chosen by your boy Nate S. The movie is Bone Tomahawk. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Wild West Randeezy. What's up, man?
What's going on, children?
How we doing, fellas? I am sorry for my tardiness tonight. I've had about 20 minutes of screaming at a computer that cannot hear or acknowledge my rage. So here we are, ready to talk some
Fantastic.
Tomahawk.
That's why we should go back to the olden days. Just horses and wells and
Oh my
spittoons.
gosh.
None
It
of
was
this
a
computer
simpler time.
nonsense. A simpler time.
Yeah.
Next up, calling in from South Korea, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, howdy, partners. It's your boy Tumbleweed Stange.
I don't think that leaves a stain, man. It's pretty dry.
Dry.
It's real dry.
Really just a few flecks, you know?
That's
Some
fine.
crumblies. That's
Yeah.
okay. You got those tumbleweeds out in Korea?
Oh, yeah. Just rolling. You know what I realized? I was never super big into an American
Limp
Tale,
Bizkit?
but I loved
Oh.
Fievel Goes West. That was my shit back in the day. That was my
Hell yeah,
preferred
dude.
Fievel film.
It's a
Mine
great,
too.
great movie. Yeah, I watch that shit a lot.
Yeah. That's
Last
what I
but not
realized
least-
watching.
Reminds me of a time that is past, a simpler time.
That
Yes.
is the longest bump I think we have.
Wrong.
No.
Oh boy. I threw down the gauntlet. Last but not
Mm-hmm.
least, making her triumphant return to Straight Chilling. Everybody, welcome back, Nicole. What's up, Nicole?
Howdy,
Yeah.
howdy, howdy.
Hey,
Welcome.
Welcome back.
standing ovation
Mm-hmm.
per usual.
When was the last time we had you on, Nicole? I can't remember.
Ooh, I can't remember either.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's very impactful. guest
Knock at the
spots.
cabin. Knock at the cabin.
Knock
I'm
Oh,
pretty
Alan,
sure.
I
Wow.
wasn't even on that episode, and that was a year ago. God
We
damn.
didn't
Yeah.
need you.
That's right.
It was fine.
Well, I was flying.
you dodged a bullet, baby.
Yeah,
it
even though I
wasn't
still had to
great.
watch it. Yeah.
I
You
picked
know,
up your slack.
Yeah, you did.
For
You
sure.
always do.
All right.
Nicole, for listeners that might be newer to our show, why don't you let them know about your very own horror podcast?
So I have a show called Light and Shadow, and it's less review, more analysis. So I talk about like cultural impact on horror, how horror has in turn influenced cultures, such and such, so and so. And I'm currently doing a religion and horror series. I've been doing that for about a year. And
Christianity.
perfect timing. And of course, you guys have been gracious enough to guest. So, folks, feel free to, if for no other reason, if you want to hear more straight chillin', check out my episode on the
does
Mist.
that?
Check out my episode on Separate in the Rainbow.
Yeah, good shit. Yeah, thanks for having us on. That series that you're doing is like so perfect for you, and it's really been interesting and awesome, like hearing you dive into that, and sort of getting outside of just like the Catholic stuff. I think is fairly well known. But yeah, good shit. Definitely check out Light and Shadow everywhere you get your podcasts. Let's tackle a little bit of housekeeping real quick before we get into the main event here. Here's your final reminder. Our March poll pick Our March poll is currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get a chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this March. The theme for March is Welcome to Hell. The movies you're voting between are As Above, So Below, Hellraiser 2, and Jason Goes to Hell.
Blah. How are those numbers
Thank you.
looking?
Oh, about the same.
Aliens
About the
simply
same.
evil.
Yeah,
Evil.
we going to hell. We going to Hellraiser Deuce.
Well, we'll find out, man. Hellraiser Deuce 48%, As Above, So Below 33%, Jason Goes to Hell 19%. So,
All right.
unless everybody starts changing their votes,
Which
yeah,
you know
we'll
they
see.
will.
They
There's no
love
precedent
to
for
do
that ever happening
They love it.
and fucking us.
Randy specifically.
Yeah, I protected myself this time. I am not making a damn thing
Oh.
until the end of the month.
Nice.
Randy drew a line in the sand.
I did.
Good for you.
For context, the last poll, and I think maybe the poll before that, there was a last minute push for a change in.
But
in
I
the-
don't think
in
it
the
did
winner.
change though.
No, it
I
didn't.
think
But
you
I,
just
that's
bitched
true.
for no
That's
reason.
true.
It was like
No, I think
flopping
I
back and
had not
forth.
bitched, I would have had reason to bitch.
Yeah.
I think you're just
Randy's like-
paranoid, man. You know.
Randy
Yeah,
won't
that's
get hurt
definitely what this
again.
is. It's
Can't
definitely
hurt him.
it's definitely not that I'm desperately trying to avoid extra chores.
Protect your heart, Randy. It's
Have
important.
to.
It's the only one you got. Get your votes in. You only got a couple days left, and then we'll see what movie we're talking about this March. In other Patreon news, we have been dropping mini casts every other Friday. This coming Friday, we're going to be dropping a brand new mini cast on Suitable Flesh, which is it's on Shudder now, actually, so you can watch it pretty easily. It's got Barbara Crampton in it. It's super horny.
Horny Barbara.
They're horny Barbara. Lovecraftian type joint. Check that out. Joe Lynch's latest film on Shudder now, and then you can listen to my thoughts about it this Friday over on
Cool.
Patreon. And the last bit of Patreon news we have is we are going to be reopening the You Pick the Flick tier for the second quarter of the year on Sunday, March 17th, which is also St. Patrick's Day. So
Uh-oh.
don't start drinking too early, folks.
Make sure you get your picks in before you start drinking, or you might make some mistakes, you know.
I think
Get
Just
lucky
biggest
with
coming.
straight chilling.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Nicole, for doing the heavy lifting on that. The biggest mistake in your life. If you guys are newer to the show, this is the only way you can outright pick a movie for us to review. There's only 5 spots per quarter, and they typically go pretty quick. And we're going to open this at an undisclosed time of day. So you just got to check our Patreon sites on Sunday, March 17th. And eventually, the You Pick Flick tier will be open. Go ahead and grab a spot. And good luck.
Well, of course, here come the demons.
Here come the demons.
Here come the demons. That's all I got, folks. Do you have anything else you want to plug?
I have one bit of news. As of this episode coming out, we have a brand new Creature Comforts up on our YouTube channel. That is our spinoff show where I talk with a guest about a horror adjacent film. This month, I have a very smart, sophisticated guest named Nishol from the Leet and Shado podcast, who was very gracious enough to join me to discuss the Passion of the Christ. No, it was Nicole from Light and Shadow, who's with us here tonight.
I thought you were being very careful to pronounce a name that is foreign to us.
No,
I was like, wow, way to go, Juice. You're really,
it was Nicole.
you're really being considerate.
Nope, it was Nicole.
Just
Yeah, we talked about Passion of the Christ heading into the Easter season coming up here, and we talked about that from a horror adjacent, through a horror adjacent lens, and discussed, a lot of the, religious aspects, of course, of it. So thank you, Nicole, for joining me on that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I think that's a movie that a lot of people would sort of avoid talking about. So I was excited that you wanted to do it, and it was a great discussion. So thanks for including me.
Yeah, I had to get permission from HR, straight chilling HR, but we got the approval
From
and pushed
God.
Oh,
it through.
Kathy?
Yeah,
You had to contact
Chatty
Kathy?
yeah, with the butt
Yeah.
sting.
Kathy won't allow people to watch religious things in their spare time.
Yeah.
It's just not good.
But yeah, so check that out. I really enjoyed that discussion. It's a film that I've kind of wanted to discuss for a while, but was a little concerned about it because of the religious context. But it was a great discussion. So yep, that's up on our YouTube page now. Check it out.
Rad. Sounds like a jolly good time.
Oh yeah, oh, it was a good
I
time.
can't. I'm excited to listen. Actually, I've never seen the
Jolly,
movie.
I don't know about
and,
jolly, but
It can't be as good of a time as watching a man be tortured and murdered. So,
oh yeah.
you know, a little bit easier to swallow than the movie, I gotta imagine.
you'll find out soon. Cool. Randy, you got anything?
Not a damn thing. And you said you're clean, right? Your
Sweet.
asshole clean? All right, here we go.
This house is clean.
All right, let's get into the main event. We're talking Bone Tomahawk, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
Pause. What the fuck? It's just not playing.
That's all right, man. I'll fix it. Bone Tomahawk from 2015 with a runtime of 2 hours and 12 minutes. This was written and directed by S. Craig Zoller, starring Kurt Russell, Patrick Wilson, Matthew Fox, Richard Jenkins, Fred Millimond, David Arquette, Sid Haig. So many wonderful folks. Plot synopsis brought to you by the back of the box as it's fallen. When a group of cannibal savages kidnap settlers from the small town of Bright Hope, an unlikely team of gunslingers led by Sheriff Franklin Hunt sets out to bring them home. But their enemy is more ruthless than anyone could have imagined, putting their mission and survival itself in serious jeopardy. Kurt Russell leads an all-star cast including Patrick Wilson, Matthew Fox, and Richard Jenkins in this gritty, brutal adventure that takes your expectations and twists them.
Oh boy.
Oh,
Does it?
don't get it twisted. No, it's pretty straightforward, honestly. Have y'all seen this movie before, and would you recommend folks check it out? Nicole, why don't you keep this?
Yes, I had seen this movie before. I love Westerns. And so anytime I can get a little bit of a horror Western, I'm all about it. So I was excited about this movie from the first time I heard about it. Saw it. I don't think I saw it in a theater, but I probably rented it as soon as I could. And I love this movie. And I would recommend it. Maybe with a little bit of a caveat. You know, it's Western and it's horror. So I think if you enjoy either one of those genres, it's a good one. Or if you just enjoy genre film in general, I think you will enjoy this. You know, like for a general audience, maybe not, but definitely if you're a genre fan at all, highly recommend.
Right on. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I would recommend this. I'm not a particular Western fan. I'll watch the ones that are like the real quality ones. I'm not gonna just like comb through a bunch of just like kind of lower quality Westerns. But I really like love this one. You know, like this. I mean to say is like this is a type of Western film that like I will happily watch and enjoy with kind of no restrictions. And so, yeah, I think most people could too. The thing about this one, it's a horror film, but not in the traditional kind of sense. It's got a lot of kind of brutality that's mostly geared toward the ending of this film. So I think even like just some kind of casual viewers will be able to make it through most of this film without any kind of like major problems. Then the ending gets like pretty rough and brutal. And so maybe that'll fuck you up. But still, you know. Get your mom halfway through it and then send her on her way, I guess. But yeah, I would recommend people check
What a
this
lovely
out.
movie.
I have watched
ends
this
with-
movie with my parents. So
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm
I
curious
think
what
this is good.
Rob's dad thinks of this movie.
I would like to show
He's
it
a
to
big
him.
horror head. Or a big
Yeah.
Western head, rather.
Western, yeah.
This is
yeah.
perfect for your mom and dad to watch together, Bob.
Aw. Date night.
Maybe. I'm not totally sure. Maybe.
Bob, had you seen this before? Would you recommend people check it out?
Yeah, I'd seen this a couple times before, and it's a really solid cast, and I really like the directing style and the writing, and we'll get into all of that. I'm not a huge Western fan. I just think I probably was not very interested in them because like that is just what my dad watched 24/7. So like I've seen enough John Wayne in my life to carry me over. I'm good. But I really, really like how it's played out in this movie. Yeah, it's definitely a big recommend for me. Randy, what about you?
Yeah, I've seen this movie I think at least twice before. Probably more like 3 times. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot about this movie that's geared towards my particular likes in movies. It's a genre blend, which I like. I'm always kind of on board with that sort of thing. It's brutal, but it's also quiet. It's paced really slowly. Those are things that just sort of lean into my sort of like cinematic interests. So I have to recommend it on those basis. Acting performances, all that stuff. It's got a lot going for it, is what I'm saying. So yeah, I would recommend it. I agree with Nicole that this is not something for grandma. This is something for, people with stout of heart and ready for a long haul too. They have to be patient viewer as well. I will say that there's like some. I've seen some criticisms of this movie having some racism going on. We can talk about that more. So if that's something that might bother you, then this is definitely a movie that you could pass over. There's some pretty unapologetic but time appropriate racism going on in this, and then some. So that's those are the caveats I would give. Otherwise, it's a pretty baller movie.
Right on. Sounds like a pretty favorable general recommendation from the crew here at Straight Chilling. So slam it into your eyeballs if you haven't. We will be spoiling this movie, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, you got that plot synopsis?
I do indeed, good sir.
Plop it on me with a nice Southern accent, please. Or, well, Western cowboy accent. I don't know what kind of
cowboy accent.
Give me an accent. French, I don't care.
In the 1890s American West.
$20 whore.
Bro, we find Buddy and Purvis killing and robbing at campgrounds. They then stumble across Native American burial site. Buddy's killed, but Purvis narrowly escapes. He makes it to the town of Bright Hope and buries his loot under a tree. Deputy Chicory sees him, runs off, tattles to Sheriff Hunt about his suspicious activity. Hunt finds Purvis in the local tavern. When he tries to run off, Sheriff shoots him in the leg. While Sheriff takes Purvis to the jail, he tells Gunslinger John Bruder, go fetch Samantha, town doctor. She can tend to his leg. Samantha's husband, Arthur, has a broken leg himself. He's bedridden. He tells John to look after his wife. Better not make any moves on her. That night, a stable boy is killed. The following morning, Sheriff's informed. He goes to the jail and finds nothing but an arrow in the wall. Sheriff tells Arthur it appears his wife's been abducted by some Native Americans. They have a meeting back at the tavern to formulate a rescue plan. We learn the abductors are actually inbred cannibalistic troglodytes who were shunned by all other Native American tribes. Sheriff Hunt, Deputy Chicory, Gunslinger John Bruder, and Broken Leg Ass Arthur all set off and plan a rough 3-day trip to save Samantha, Deputy Nick, and Purvis as well. A couple days into their ride, they're ready to lose all their horses. Bruder's stabbed in his shoulder, too. They continue on foot. Following day, they run into an altercation between Arthur and Bruder, and that exacerbates things. Arthur's leg gets even worse. Chicory gives him a tincture of opium and resets his leg. They leave him to rest and recover. They continue on foot. They find the troglodyte camp in our ambush. They kill 3, but Bruder loses his hand and chooses to sacrifice himself rather than living as a cripple. Hunt and Chicory are captured and held in a makeshift cell next to Samantha and Nick. Purvis has already been eaten. Nick is then scalped, bisected, and eaten in front of the others. Hunt then tricks a couple troglodytes into drinking the tincture of opium, and he kills them. Arthur wakes up and follows trail to the den. He kills 2 more, cuts an animal bone out of one of their throats. He uses it to communicate and ends up killing another one. Back at the den, the leader's angered at the murder of his 2 friends. He cuts open Hunt's stomach, shoves the flask that contained the opium into it. He then shoots Hunt in the lung. Arthur arrives, causing a distraction, allowing Hunt to decapitate the troglodyte. And the mortally wounded Hunt stayed behind with a rifle, promising to kill the remaining troglodytes, allowing Arthur, Samantha, and Chipper to escape. After they're all safe, we hear 3 more gunshots fired in the distance, leading us to believe Hunt has finished off the tribe. Roll credits.
Good
Bravo.
job.
If you made it all the way through that, congratulations. The gauntlet is now
You're
done.
still with us.
I
You're
know.
truly hard with us.
I'm
Thank
dying
you.
to see the click off ratio on this episode.
30 seconds in.
No.
Oh boy. There
Halfway
you
through the
go.
intro song.
The song.
This song sucks. Yeah, let's talk about the movie, I guess.
Yeah. S. Craig Dollar, this dude, I guess he wrote 40 or so plus scripts for Hollywood before he ever got a movie made. He was also, he wrote books. He was just an author. And he wrote a Western, I forget the name of it, but they were initially trying to turn his Western novel into a movie, but I guess it would require way too much money. The budget was too big. So we ended up writing this script and got it greenlit. And we got what we got. I think it's really interesting, though, that like this first-time director, this is his feature film debut, like first time out the gate, somehow managed to get this amazing cast on board. Like, I don't know how
wild
he did
movie
it.
made. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
this is a
It's
pretty
really
big
impressive.
swing for a studio to pick up. Yeah.
Freaking Kurt Russell. I think Kurt Russell got the script passed on to him by like one of his buddies or something like that, and loved it and like jumped on board. I'm sure once he signed on, the rest followed. Patrick Wilson, Matthew Fox being in this. I don't know if that dude's acting anymore. Like can't remember the last time I saw Matthew Fox in, honestly.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, it's Jack, right? From
It's old
Lost.
Jack Shepard.
Yeah,
My boy Jack. Yeah. But yeah, it is. I kind of forgot how stacked the cast was. I kind of forgot. It's been a few years since I saw this film. I kind of forgot Patrick Wilson was in it. Definitely remember Kurt Russell, of course. But yeah, and then even at the beginning too, Sid being in it, and our boy Dewey. So yeah, it's
David
my
Arquette.
boy Dewey.
My boy Dewey Arquette.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
really, it's an insane cast, actually. I like, of all of the actors in this movie, like the one that I'm most endeared to, and even his character, is Richard Jenkins. I fucking love this man.
Is that Chicory?
He's good. That's
Yeah.
Chicory. Like his
Yeah.
character is so lovable and dim and delightful to watch, and it's crazy. Just like, I think that like every time I see Richard Jenkins, he's doing something that makes me like kind of makes me a little blown away, because he's always doing different things. Like he's very good at the character actor thing, but he's given like meatier character actor roles because he's so fucking versatile. It's incredible.
Yeah, that first scene with him and the sheriff is so fun, and like tells us everything we need to know about him and that whole relationship. But whenever they're talking about the corn chowder, because he's like, oh, this tastes like corn. And he's like, well, it's corn chowder. And he says, oh, well, things are lining up. My family still says that to each other after watching this movie together. Like, we remember
Nice.
that and said, no, things are lining up.
It's just such like sweet old man stuff. And what's crazy is like he's very difficult, like at first, to even fucking recognize in this movie. I don't know about you guys, but like the way
I
that he
didn't. So I was just going through and I was
transforms
like,
into this character.
holy shit, this is the same actor. I didn't when
Yeah.
I clicked on his name. Yeah, holy shit.
He's got a career, man. I love this guy's stuff. Anyway, so but like the acting overall is all very good. Like I don't think there's anybody who stands out as particularly like lacking in the acting department at all. And like part of that is the writing, like the way that they write these characters. They're so true to the character that they're playing, and the like, I don't know, it just feels very internally consistent, a lot of this stuff. Brooder, who is played by Matthew Fox, is such a piece of shit.
He kind of is and kind of isn't.
I agree.
There's like a sort of the way S. Craig Zoller writes his characters in his script, and also it's also how he like how he directs his movies. They all have this very similar kind of blunt, matter of fact, to the point kind of tone, the way the characters are written, the way they speak. It's all like direct and to the point, and I really like that vibe, the way his movies feel. Like, you spend time with the characters and you get a really good sense of them in a way that's not very like flowery. And then he sort of uses that same kind of feeling when he like brings around the violence in his movies, which all of his movies have this like really extreme violence, but it's like chosen moments. It's not like consistent through and through. This is not a splatter picture. He like really chooses his moments wisely, makes them like really count. I really like this guy's directing style and the way he writes. I think he writes really, really tight scripts. I hope he keeps making movies. It's been a while since he's directed anything, but I hope somebody gives him some cash so he can make another one for sure.
I actually haven't seen any of his other films, but I remember Bob, I think you spoke pretty highly of Brawl in Cell Block 99, right?
It's really good. Yeah.
Cool. All right. And then Dragged Across Concrete, which sounds terrible, but came out in
This dude
2018.
can title a movie, right? Holy shit.
Yeah. But yeah, cool. I gotta check that out. At least the Cell Block. Have you seen the Dragged Across Concrete, Bob?
Yeah, I have. It's my least favorite of the three. It's still good though. Vince Vaughn's in that one again. Mel Gibson is in it. It's like it's like a Lethal Weapon, but like a little more gritty, a little darker, like police cop drama kind of thing.
Cool.
It's worth watching. Vince Vaughn. If you want to see Vince Vaughn beat wholesale ass, watch Brawl and Cell Block.
Oh, I do.
It's
top
awesome.
of my list, baby.
What I've been waiting for.
It's awesome.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, and the thing I kind of mentioned before, the horror element of this is the design of these kind of like troglodytes, and the kills, like the scalping. We've talked about this kind of aspect before, but see, this is kind of a weird blend though, because we've talked about things like with Nope and The Witch and a couple different things where we're bringing to light these things like aliens or folklore and putting them in a kind of modern setting and making them kind of terrifying. I would kind of associate this with just I think the Hollywood vision of the Wild West, of like Native Americans and like scalping and that kind of aspect of like kids back in the day playing like cowboys and Indians type of thing. But like this aspect of they're kind of these human monsters that speak through bone screams and like will scalp you and eat you, and their women are just dude, the women, the pregnant, like, oh my god, dude, that's so messed up. But it's the only kind of film that I can think that kind of does that kind of aspect of like these kind of monsters out in the wilderness, in that kind of way from this like subgenre. Was there any other one that you can think of, Randy?
Well, no, it's not in the same subgenre, so I would say it's a little different. But like I was gonna say, like these monster people they're human in the way that like the creatures in the hills have eyes are human. They're like inbred to shit and living like sort of like adjacent to their origins of the Native American people. Like they're still like technically human, but they're human in a way that's like fucked up. Like not and it's like so like they're still doing things that we would recognize as being like the worst tropes of Native Americans in old Western movies, but it's sort of like given a justification in that they are adjacent to humanity in some way, which I think is a little bit of just a slight bit of a cop out. But I mean, the brutality of the things that they're doing or whatever, it kind of speaks for themselves. Everything else works so well that I kind of find myself not thinking about it too much.
Roll with it.
Being perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I think that the basically turning this like obscure tribe into these monsters, I think is an offshoot of like a larger thing that this movie is doing, which is it's clearly like a love letter to Westerns and it's like an homage to Westerns, but it's also like a parody of Westerns to some extent. Because you've got like it criticizes the idea of like these heroes going out to do this thing that in like every Western we've ever seen, it's, you know, they're doing the honorable thing. And the sheriff even says, like, I have to do this. And it's like, we don't have to. His wife is just like, you know, I want you to come back to me. And so I feel like a lot of our typical heroes don't survive. The people that should survive don't survive. The people that shouldn't survive do. So the old man, the woman, and the injured guy are the ones that come back. They should not be the ones that come back. And I feel like a little bit of that, like, old guard, like machismo, like I have to do this for honor kind of thing that we see in Westerns. I feel like there's definitely like a criticism of that in this movie. And so I think that going the extra mile and making this native tribe just monsters is part of that, because earlier in the movie they're like, oh, we'll call in the professor, he'll tell us about this, and it's a Native American. And he said, well, to you would just look at them like every other tribe, but they're something entirely different. So I think the just brutality of this is almost like a play on that old cowboys and Indians, that they're savages. So I think this movie just sort of like takes that to the nth degree.
I think it does. Like, it's kind of does for the Western. I can see your point. Like, it kind of feels like it does what for the Western genre, like what like Game of Thrones does for medieval or for fantasy genre. You know, where it like puts more realistic human reactions with all the ugliness that contains in the fore, rather than pushed behind some like archetypal fantasy of what these characters should be. I think that's partially true. I will say, like, the professor thing or whatever, I like, it was good of them to include that. It was at least attempting to make an explicit statement of being like, hey, this isn't what this isn't like your stop bog standard like Native American hate story here or revenge tale or anything. This is something that is really supposed to be like adjacent. But that, like, I wish that character had stuck around or something, or there was like, it feels like there should be a little bit more like commentary on that if that is the intention, rather than just having this guy show up for 5 minutes to sort of say, hey, that's not us. You guys don't think that's what Native Americans are like. We're not saying that as a movie. We're not saying that. We're saying this is a monster race. These are monster cave people, chuds. They're not real. But like, you know, there's very obviously some like history behind these sorts of tropes. Otherwise, they wouldn't be using these tropes, both in cinema and in reality. There's some history that could be brought up in this. I don't know. It feels a little hand wavy, and I just wish if they had kept that character around, or if there was some more conversation around that, like, it would land a little better. Bruder for me is like very much a piece of shit. They give him a little bit of a tragic backstory and sort of like imply that it's like part of the cycle of violence and how bigotry doesn't get you anywhere and all that stuff. But it doesn't say that as strongly as I think that it could. And so it feels like they didn't go far enough in that direction for me to be like, okay, there's no way that this is like intentionally painting a certain thing. It's commenting on this and it's saying this. It really is just sort of seems like it's a little bit whitewashy without necessary while making attempts not to be, if that makes sense.
Well, I thought, kind of like, to going off to Nicole's point, I thought they were kind of using those kind of characters and those kind of tropes to undermine it as well, because especially I kind of had the same. It's funny that you bring up Game of Thrones, because when that guy went out, I legit had this thought. I've seen this several times, but I was thinking, you know, this really reminds me of Khal Drogo, where they tease him to be this badass, and there's like little blips of moments where you get to see his potential, but he never fucking goes whole hog, you know, on the enemy or whatever, where you have this guy who's like, yeah, I've killed over 100, you know, people or whatever, and he's setting up all the traps and he's doing all these things, and he doesn't even get this glorious moment at the end. He's, you know, he goes out just like anybody else, you know, he goes out first. Yeah. And so, and two, now, and also too, one thing that I like that this movie does, they do it with him, and the way Kurt Russell goes out, is this realization of death, of like, I'm facing death, and like everything kind of melts away, the machismo, the front you put on of like, I'm dying. I like those moments that they do, but I did think that they kind of like undermined that typical Western trope of like, yeah, that guy goes out and yeah, I think that's fine.
One
I
of
do
my
love the line when he's saying bye to Chicory, when the sheriff is saying bye to Chicory, and he says, "Say goodbye to my wife, and I'll say
Yes.
hello to yours." I was
Great.
like, oh,
Mhm.
It's a great
I
line.
love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
very good. Yeah, fantastic.
Bobby, you're saying something.
I was gonna say that actually.
Oh.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like it's funny, like the Kurt Russell character is just like, he's just the Kurt Russell character in so many ways. Like he's stoic, he takes no shit, he's like got a little bit of like bigotry in himself, but he's also quick to call that out. He's fair-minded, if not perfect. So like it's good to have him in there as sort of like a counterweight, and Chicory for that matter, as a counterweight to Bruder's shit. Because to me, like the way Bruder goes out, like I heard somebody argue that it was like a heroic outro, and I don't think so. Like I think he gets shot and there's really no way this guy's gonna survive. He says out loud, "I'd rather die than be a cripple," which is not like,
Yeah.
that's not a heroic thing to say.
Which,
even
I
if
mean,
it
that
is sort
could
of
be
half
like,
just,
tough guy speak. Like he knows he's gonna die, so he's gonna
I think it
pretend
is
like he's
that.
going out on his own terms, sort of thing.
I think it is that, but I think if he could survive, he would not be sacrificing
Yeah.
himself. So therefore, it's not
Yeah.
heroic.
Yeah, I don't think
necessarily.
it is necessarily
And
heroic.
he's going out shooting, which I do
Yeah.
think is like, for his situation, appropriate for what he's doing. But then he immediately gets like Bone Tomahawk to the
Yeah.
fucking head, like immediately.
Yeah.
And to me, it gave me a laugh, and I was like, okay, so I don't see this as necessarily a heroic outgoing. He makes heroic actions in his final twilight minutes, but that's like the only like choice he can make to maintain his ego in that moment. So to me, it doesn't like, I like that it does that because it doesn't allow apologetics for who he is and like the things that he has done, like murdering kids and children, kids and women in native tribes because they can hold a bow or whatever. It's like, I don't know, we don't get the full story on that, but he's very clear. He's talking about like manifest destiny and like, I gave him a real test in manifest destiny. And it's like, fuck you. Like, I don't know. I like that he was given sort of like a thud of an ending rather than the heroic ending. And to hear somebody like say, "Oh no, he got the hero's ending," that to me like kind of robs it of its fun.
Oh, I wasn't saying. Did you think I was saying
No,
he
I'm
got
just
a hero's
I was talking
ending?
about somebody
Oh, okay.
else. I brought up somebody else while you were
No, that
out.
kind of was my point though too. It's like also too, in bringing in that kind of like male vulnerability, which we've touched on kind of like lately too, of having him sing his final moments alone, where all that washes away. He does kind of go out unceremonious, like he doesn't get the grand big shootout, bravery, you saved the gal and all that stuff. Yeah, he just goes out kind of weeping to himself, shooting a little bit, but then yeah, tomahawk to the face. And I think that is set to kind of like undermine that aspect of like, these are not like the heroes that you had back in the old 60s westerns where they're just always win and come out on top. It's like, these are people who are kind of terrible in their own right, and kind of going out weeping.
Patrick Wilson's character does kind of play that role to some degree, because like all these other guys are like, they have all of their limbs working properly and they're like sneaking up on this den. But like Patrick Wilson takes a nap. Like he lays down and takes a nap and he's like high on opium, and he's the only one that can like manage to kill any of these guys. And it's a bit unbelievable that he's like, he can't be touched. And he's like army crawling throughout this scenario. So like it's got a little bit of that going on for it. To like almost an extreme extent, actually. Like I was really surprised because in my memory I thought this had like a really, really sad ending. And in some ways it is a very sad ending. But like they save his wife at the end, and like they get to go home at the end of the day. And I didn't remember that being the case. It's a little shocking, as like bleak as this movie is, that it does have sort of a somewhat stereotypical happy ending, that they save Arthur's wife, Samantha.
Yeah. I actually find it kind of charming that he that he's the one to pull it off because it is so unbelievable, you know. So like you throughout the whole movie, you're just like, oh, this guy, like, what is he thinking? Like, he
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing this. Like, what is he doing? And then every single time he like breaks his leg further, you're just like, oh my God, this guy. And so by the time he gets there and he just happenstance like kills like 3 of them, I don't know. I found that really, really charming, just that he happens to make
It's
it through when
narratively
he should not.
satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's
Then-
like that's what's interesting though, is to both of your points, is that it's both narratively satisfying and not terribly realistic, which is what this movie is kind of touting and what it's
Mhm.
bringing to the table for the majority of the film up until that climax. It is so much built on like what would be the reality of the situation, but then a very unlikely series of events is what concludes the
Mhm.
movie. So
Mm.
I don't know.
And he is
Well,
like he's very prideful, which I think all
Mm.
of these men are really very like prideful in certain ways, but I think he's a little different because he's not motivated by like a sense of duty or like his own glory. He really cares about his wife. And so he really is just motivated by I have to take care of her, like I have to save her.
Mhm.
So part of it is maybe his motivations are, I don't know if more pure is the right word, but like they're a little more selfless, I think. Even though I mean they're all sacrificing something in order to save this woman.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of what is so satisfying about it.
Well, yeah, as much as this movie undermines like the traditional Western roles and tropes, it also kind of like leans into them in a certain kind of way because, you know, like we said, Chicory, the guy who's always got the moral high ground and who's very endearing, is the one who ends up living,
Makes
you know, like
through,
the
yeah.
good guys save the girl, and the more morally ambiguous tough guys are the ones who go out, which is not typically what. So it's almost like separating these two things, and like it pushes one area forward as you know, as typical, you know, the good guys finish in the end and save the girl, and then it like cuts some of the traditional stuff away. And so I think that's what's kind of interesting about it, because there are familiar beats in here where you're like, yeah, okay, I know this story, I know like what's going on, and it's got that kind of like typical, yeah, good guys finish on top, but then it also is doing it in a different kind of way, and I think you're kind of watching it going like, yes, I know what's going on. Oh wait, okay, wait, whoa, you know, I don't know, it's kind of got this balance. I think that's kind of interesting.
I don't know. Like to me, like I don't know if I'm kind of on board with that. To me, it's like it's definitely, it feels like a straightforward Western to me, but played with more realistic characters and intentions and consequences of like your environment and things like that. Like literally, like being out and surviving a trail like this, Patrick Wilson's situation, the tincture, all that stuff that like adds to the drama that like most Western movies would gloss over. I think that's what it brings to the Western table. It does subvert some of things. I think I agree. Like that, I think the machismo is a little bit under scrutiny here, but also like not terribly, because they sacrifice themselves. You can look at this movie as like the strong sacrifice themselves to protect the weak, and it's a successful mission due to the noble sacrifices and all that stuff. You can read this movie that way, and that is every Western, for the most, like not every Western, but that's a great number of Westerns that follow that trend. So I don't know, like I do think it's a little bit subversive, but I think it straps itself pretty strongly to, I don't know, like to the look, the tropes, and those sort of things. It just tries to make those particular moments seem less like cinema and more like you're in the situation, more immersive for the audience, which is valuable to me because I'm an immersion bish. We know this. So like I love that about it. I love how quiet this movie is. There's like basically no score in this movie for like 99% of it.
Mhm.
And it's no sweeping vistas. There are some, but it's like always with the character front and center or pretty close to it. There's very little like Lord of the Ringsing circular cameras
Yeah.
happening. It's just flat shots of
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not showing the
barren wilderness.
majesty of the Western Front or anything like that. It really doesn't
Yeah.
play with those beautiful colors or anything like that. Sunsets.
Because like the characters, we like
Yeah.
or like the characters don't have time to notice it, so we don't. This really puts you in the head of any of these characters, flaws and all, which makes it hard for you to see them entirely as like, you know, problematic or anything like that. Like it makes you more endeared to them more quickly. some more than others, less so Brooder. But like, I don't know, like the what you don't know, what the characters don't know, you don't know. You don't get any hints that what's her name is alive.
Yeah, you're not seeing from her
she could,
perspective where she's like
for all we know, they've been
surviving.
dead for 3 days by the time they
Yeah.
get there. You know what I mean? But for all
Yeah.
we know, they're going in the wrong direction for 3 days. We don't know anything, and neither do they. So it amps up the heroicism of it a little bit, which I don't know. This is kind of like the push and pull for me. Is like I want it to be a little more subversive than it is, but I also kind of like the flat taking it seriously, like we mentioned, like The Witch and things like that, like just taking like a standard old story and just really allowing your audience to put themselves in that position in a more immersive way.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think Hunt does get a hero's send off. Bruder's really the only one that doesn't, I guess, because I mean, Hunt, like till his dying breath, he's doing everything that he possibly can to like help others, and he also like has that really touching moment when he says goodbye to his wife, and she's like, "Just please come back to me." I mean, he also decapitates one of the Native Americans, and it's a very satisfying moment in the movie. So like he's the whole way he's like doing everything he can, even if he makes bad choices, he's trying his best. And in a way that Bruder is just like kind of knows he's a bit of a prick and is totally okay with being a bit of a prick. So
He's
like
playing Sawyer.
yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I do. I love like the cinematography of this as like plain as it is. I think it fits the tone and style of the movie perfectly. I really like it. I think it's just great. It's all like so cohesive. Like this movie being like written and directed by the same guy, it all like flows together so well in a way that I just really appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it.
Yeah.
To me, it just feels like your boots are on the ground right with them in some way. And so when Brooder, like for example, like shoots those guys that are approaching them, you feel pissed. Like you're like, what the fuck? Why would you do that? And I don't know, like, and you're endeared to Chicory.
I don't know. I mean, I think it was pretty just enough.
Well, it turns out that they are raided the next night, so like they could.
I don't know if those are related people, though. Like
you don't know, I don't know. Maybe they could be though.
No, I mean the thing is, like, they could be. That's why they're treating them as hostile as they're approaching, and not. But like shooting somebody in cold blood because you think there's a chance that they might be part of a raiding party. That is pretty easy to construe as being just morally repugnant in some way. That's not fair-minded. That is maybe pragmatic, maybe just evil. It's one or the other, and you don't know which. So what does that make you? Like,
well, and I think starting this movie off too with just these two guys just killing, like slitting people's throats in their sleep. I mean, it really, I had a moment throughout this where I was just like, this would be the most miserable time I could imagine to be living. And I don't know why anybody, especially the generation who grew up just idolizing Westerns and stuff like that, would think that anything about living in this time is magical. It just seems like the most fucking miserable time to me to be alive. And this movie, I feel like like you can't even like go to sleep. You gotta sleep in the fucking dust and dirt and fucking snakes and scorpions, and somebody might just cut your throat in the middle of the night. And then people show up and you're like, well, do I want to go to sleep, or do I want to shoot somebody and live with the guilt of their murder on my conscience forever? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, what a miserable fucking time.
Justin, not a cowboy.
No.
I would say that you're probably
should have been a cowboy.
If you're I would argue that maybe people who, I don't know, pre-civilization might have had it worse, since that was the only option. But okay, I know, I agree. Like, it's a tough time to be alive, and I like that this movie shows that so much.
Yeah.
I also like that it just doesn't pull punches. You know, I mean, it intentionally leans into both brutality on a horror front, but also harsh realities of the wilderness and things like that. That works for me really, really well, and so I'm with you on that front.
And I do like the little bit of female characters we get in this movie, because you know with westerns it's gonna be largely male, and that's fine. But I do like how I think we have like 2 female characters in this movie. We have Samantha, who they're rescuing, And I like her because she's like the nurse, but clearly she's like a doctor. And when the doctor's drunk, she's capable of taking care of things, right? And it seems like
sounds
she
like
has
it's-
to do that quite a bit. Yeah, and she seems very capable of handling it too. Like she's like, it's fine. Just tell my husband I'll be here all night. It's fine. She's very compassionate towards this guy who, you know, may or may not be a murderer, criminal, whatever. They're not sure. So she's very brave in that way. And I do really like at the end. Well, when they get there to like the cave, she's survived and she knows a few things. Like she's been very observant. She's like, don't do this, don't do that. She knows about the opium, like how much they need to give them. So like she's not just a damsel in distress. She's got a little bit more agency than that, which I really like. Um and I do like when she calls out, you know, she's like, the reason why frontier life is so hard is because of all the idiots. Like you guys are making bad choices, you know. So I like her a lot. And then also we get that one little snippet of the mayor's wife when they're at the Learned Goat, which by the way, the Learned Goat is great saloon name. But
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that hipster barbecue place downtown.
yeah,
It's
you know
great.
it. But when she's all mad, she's like, oh, like why wouldn't you notify the mayor? The mayor needs to know about this. And it's very clear that like she's the one running the town.
Yeah.
But of course they can't have a female mayor in the frontier, so her husband is the quote unquote mayor, you know. But it's just a tiny little moment, but I was like, yeah, clearly this woman is the one running things.
You could
The-
make a
the-
lot
the
more
mayor-
hay out of that too. Yeah.
The mayor's
Mhm.
like, wait, how do you spell troglodyte? He's trying to write a letter.
He's clearly very hapless, and she's
Yeah.
taking
Mhm.
action.
He's the fucking Monopoly man looking guy.
yeah.
He's just
Yeah.
Like that.
like I don't
Yeah.
know. Like and like even when Hunt is like talking about this stuff, he's directly facing her and he's like somewhere
Yep.
over in his periphery. Like it's clear the dynamic there. And then we have Hunt's wife who is also just very devoted and smart and like yeah, you're right that there is I wish they had maybe more of that maybe. I don't know. I think that like the crew we have is fine, but I think like if
Mhm.
they had like if they had just a little bit more different perspective on part of this on the actual journey itself, maybe it could have added a little bit more like commentary or of things of interest, perspectives. You could point out where these guys are going wrong and then watch them foolhardily go further down the wrong path or something like that. Then to me it's like undeniable that there's this commentary. The problem, I guess, if I'm circling one, is that we have to do some of that we have to do a lot of that legwork ourselves. We have to just see it through that lens and choose to. And that is a choice to be made. The thing is though, like it doesn't make it explicit enough to where you can't just interpret this as a straight Western in many ways.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and I
Maybe
think
that's
this
I don't know.
movie it's very enjoyable as just a straight Western. It's very successful. It's very enjoyable. So, I mean, I love it the way it is, and I appreciate some of these little fringe things that that do make it more interesting to me. But if like this is just a Western and you view it that way and you enjoy it that way, it's successful. It works.
Juice, you're quiet for some reason. We can't hear you.
Nah, yeah, you got nothing.
You're on mute or something.
Technical difficulties tonight.
Yeah. No shit, man. Oh man.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. One thing I will say about the like I really enjoyed this film, but it's always stuck out to me in my mind of like, okay, shit's not really gonna pop off until the end. And this time in particular, I was really watching for it to be like, okay, what is the pacing of this movie and how are things moving? The first third doesn't actually really bother me, except that I would say it would be kind of fun to have these kind of creatures moving through the town. Like I don't know, just to see kind of like how they move outside of their dominant territory and maybe
Mhm.
why they don't venture out more or why they are venturing out, or like just to kind of see how they operate, I think would be cool. But then the middle section, it does do some good character development, especially with the moral stuff and their discussions and things, but it does kind of drag a little bit. It's not so bad, but this being my third or fourth watch and really paying attention, I was like, okay, yeah, this middle section is like definitely the worst for me. And then shit pops off and it's really fun again. So if there was going to be any kind of like critique about that, I kind of also wish this, and maybe I was kind of hoping we might get this with trivia. I was going to wait to see what Bob said. I was kind of hoping this would be one of those movies where hidden throughout the movie there would be some like troglodyte in the background, like with camouflage on, that's like creeping on him or something like that. I thought that could be cool. I don't know if that's the case, probably not, but I was kind of hoping. I don't know, I feel like there could have been more going on in this movie to give it some kind of critique, I guess, as a
Yeah,
film.
that's no trivia regarding that juice
No,
that I know
okay.
that I know of.
I was just
Anyways,
kind of
yeah.
hoping. I was
No
like, I hope
Mike
they're lurking.
Flanagan
Yeah.
background
Yeah.
troglodytes.
Yeah.
There's just a face.
But
Just
yeah,
on screen.
I don't know. Did y'all feel like this dragged at all for y'all?
I did. I felt
A
kind of the
touch.
same. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
This
I
is
mean
my
it's
speed.
Oh,
I don't know. It's over 2 hours long. And anybody who's listened to me very long knows that like that's my critique a lot. I think a lot of movies could do with an edit, like a 10
yeah.
or 20-minute edit. I have that critique a lot. If your movie's over 2 hours, like I feel like you really got to earn it. And so to me, I feel kind of the same way. In the middle, it does drag a little bit for me. But not so much that it really detracts that much.
Yeah. It doesn't ruin it by any means. Just like really paying attention and kind of critiquing it. I was like, yeah. And again, I still wish that we got some of them in the town. I mean, they tease it. And that kind of builds suspense to the showdown at the end, but the way that they play it in subverting those kind of like expectation of this huge showdown, this big shootout and everything like that, I feel like then you could have given some in the town before, I don't know.
I don't know. I guess I'm the outlier because to me, like I could have added more. Like I could have gone a little further. There seems like there's a lot of things that I feel like I wish were additional, and the only thing I can think of to subtract from the middle for the most part are things like Chicory's diatribes, and I don't want to lose a fucking second of that shit. So like, I don't know. I like what we got. The pacing of it to me, like at any point that could by some be interpreted as a lull, is usually filled with like pretty good dialogue, and I'm there for that, man. I want to hear the word choices. I don't know, like everything about the way these guys talk. Like Rob said, they're very matter of fact. It's like the opposite of mumblecore. It's not like modern talking over each other realism. It's like stoic, choose your words wisely, stick to them sort of thing.
Core.
Which normally would core, which would normally be like a ding for like a movie that's trying to be more cinematic and makes it less immersive. But because this is so good at immersing you, it just makes you it makes it feel like I'm like sitting around with some very authoritative voices that are being very assertive about what they believe, what they want, whatever. And that is that just adds to the immersion for me. So like, I don't know, it horseshoes back around for me. I could do with more of that, more like maybe a little bit of philosophy discussion built and like pushed into that. Maybe some of Chicory's diatribes lead to slightly more of that. Maybe there is a little bit of like hint that there's something following them or some, but I don't know. Maybe they have a fifth party member that's Native American that can give them more tips and tricks or something, and or that can ultimately like ward them against things that aren't heated. I don't know. There's a lot of things I would add, not so many things I would just subtract, is what I'm saying.
Why are you in my breakfast, Randy?
What?
That was
That's
one
a
of my
great
favorite.
line.
That was one of my favorite lines when he's like, "Why are you in my
Yeah.
breakfast?"
What
That
the
one,
hell?
and then when he says, "I can't honestly say I know which way it would have gone with the Mexicans." Just his
Dude.
delivery of that is great.
I think my favorite Chicory moment, where there are times where Chicory's that kind of guy where he's so super sweet, but at the same time, sometimes you're like, God damn, shut the fuck up, but also not.
Yeah.
But the one that really shines for me where I'm like, God damn, yeah, Chicory is the one you want around, it's so when the when the sheriff is getting cut open and stuff like that, and he's literally doing the thing that he just did for the other guy, where he's like, I'm gonna avenge you, sheriff, and I'm gonna get him, where he just told him the trick essentially, but he's just doing his best to do anything he can to help the sheriff, which is nothing.
Yeah.
But is
It's so
essentially just
sweet.
being like, I'm gonna avenge you, I'm gonna get him. It's like this old guy. The sheriff obviously knows nobody's coming to help him, but he's just trying to do anything to support. That is like the sweetest fucking moment, man.
I love,
love
how
that.
clearly he cares about the sheriff. He cares about him
Yeah.
so deeply. It is nice. It's very, very sweet.
I love shit like to me, like the things that would be lost if this movie was trimmed for sure, I feel like would be things like the flea circus conversation or
Oh,
or
love
the
it.
conversation about the music stand. Like these are beautiful slice of life conversations with a slightly demented older man and his like stoic boss basically. And God, I just love their interactions so much. I don't want to lose any of that shit. And there's nothing about those that really add a whole lot to the movie outside of Chicory's character being brought up. Actually, both of their characters being brought up just a little bit. It just develops them into these really sweet characters that makes those moments like him sort of like doing exactly what the sheriff told him to do, essentially, when somebody's getting murdered in front of him and just doing it. Like all that stuff works so well. And you don't have to have Chicory in this movie at all, really. Like, I don't want to lose that though. I don't want to lose any of that shit.
Yeah, I think you've got a good balance with like Chicory, who's almost like an innocent child, and then Brooder, who is like, you know, like you said, pretty much a piece of shit. So those two, I think, really are the outliers here that kind of balance the whole thing. All the characters work really well together.
That
Something I thought
gruesome.
Something I thought we would get more of that never came back around is the letter that Arthur wrote his wife, and she wants him to read it to her, and he doesn't want to, and she leaves. He ends up reading it so that for our benefit we know what it says, and then before he strikes out to go try and save her, he takes it with him. I thought he'd read it to her at the end, or start to and then fade the credits, or whatever. But it just never really circled back. I thought it's like a really sweet moment when we find out what the letter says, but like she never gets to hear him read those words, which was a little unfulfilling. But I like that that's a moment between them that we see at the beginning of the movie, at least.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting if he like read it out on the trail with the guys because he's losing hope or something for a second, or done it like just had it out. Don't shake your head. You never heard of looking at your girlfriend's picture in a foxhole? Come on.
Well, I mean, not reading your poem to your boys. I mean, come on now.
Reading it to
That's
yourself.
not a poem.
Reading it to yourself. Hey, what's that you got there?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a thing. Oh,
All
here's
right,
an interesting
boys.
conversation of development. That's
I've actually got a poem I'd like to read right here, right now.
Well, thank God that you wrote for Alice,
It's about y'all.
Woman. Woman.
Oh, man.
One thing too, just I kind of brought it up a little bit with the scalping and stuff, but the kills in this, man, they just have nothing. And even the kind of killing of those two guys is very just like kind of quick. There's no gore. There's no, I guess at the beginning we do get those guys getting their throats cut, but from the troglodytes, man, they just go 0 to a fucking 100 on that shit. That kill of the scalping and then slicing the guy in half has always lived in my mind as like one of the most brutal kills I've seen.
I have to I can't watch it. I made myself watch it this time. But like normally I'm like, I have to look away.
That effect sells, man.
They feed him his own scalp.
Well, and the way that they kill him too is like he would be alive. And every hack they make, he kind of like makes a painful noise because they don't hit his head to like, or hit near his heart. He's upside down in between his legs, so like you would be alive. I mean, you would be in shock, of course, but I mean, you would be alive.
It is shocking. That's for sure.
Ooh.
I do really like the look of the troglodytes. Like
Yeah.
their look is great. That kind of
They
like
look
white, like
great.
powdery, yeah, on their
Mhm.
skin.
Really
And,
Yeah.
handsome.
and I love
real
the like
real sex pots, these guys.
guys.
Real beefcake. They're so ripped. Those glutes.
Trying to talk about the artistry and the
I decided that I'm lonely.
costuming. Oh, but like the like bones in their throats, like how they make their like howling sounds. I mean, that is so original. I've never
That's
seen
cool.
anything
Mhm.
like that before. That's a
Really cool.
great effect. It's a great look. I don't know. I loved the design of them. And actually it makes
Yeah.
me kind of happy that we don't really see them a lot until we get there because it pays off. Everything we've heard about them, whatever we have in our mind, I feel like the look pays off 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an
Yeah.
executive by day and a wild man by night.
And really kind of going back to my comment of I wish I had more of them, I really think it would only work in that night scene where you can hide them for the most part. And really the thing I think it would do is add to the weight of these people going out and being like, this is a real bad threat. Like if we had another similar, somewhat killing scene, maybe not as brutal and in your face toward the beginning. Like can you imagine if we saw the scalping / cut in half scene at the beginning and then they're like, we're gonna head off and save the woman? You'd be like, oh God, well, see y'all, bye. Have
Well, that's the
fun
thing
on
is
your
like
journey.
that could be another
Ah.
critique, honestly, because they have David Arquette sitting right there in the drunk tank. They could have him strike up a conversation about it or whatever. Be like he's in the cell, he's drunk, he's like, look, you don't know what I saw, and then just describe the horror of what happened to Sid
Yeah.
Haig. And then
Also, how did he
boom,
get away
like-
though? That is a kind of a bit of
No, they kill him. He didn't escape.
No. He's talking about Arquette.
Yeah, he gets killed in the end. Like,
He
off
does.
screen, I
They
guess.
chase him. I guess. I think that is what that is true. Like he doesn't get
at the
killed right away.
beginning.
But he does
My
escape
point was
from that
at the
situation.
beginning. I like he's
Mm.
right there
Gotcha.
with Sid,
Yeah.
and we
Mhm.
see how these things operate. And there's like 12 of them at least. Like, how did he get away from those people and get?
I mean, the one-legged man killed all of them. So
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We do need to land that plane real quick. So
Yeah.
any other things you guys want to touch on, feel free to do so as we wrap up here. But let's go and rate Bone Tomahawk out of 5. Nicole, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel?
All right. So it's clear I love this movie. The cast and the production are all really strong. Technically, it's a very well made movie. And I also really like the story. And I think kind of like Randy said, it's a very sort of like classic Western in a lot of ways, but it doesn't feel tired at all. It's still fun to watch from beginning to end. I appreciate that. To me, this movie is both an homage, but it's also poking fun a little bit at some of the Western tropes. I really like that balance. And like I've already said, I enjoy kind of the role reversals where the women and the one kind of like Native American that we do see are the smart ones and they're kind of the voice of reason, and that our typical strong heroes are the ones that don't make it out. I think again, my only criticism is that this movie is a little bit long. And I really enjoy a slow burn. I love a slow burn. And I think that it's really important for this movie to have like some of that space and some of that slow burn. But I think probably what I would trim is that the scene with the Mexicans and then the scene where their horses get stolen are like very similar. They almost feel like the same thing twice. So maybe if we kind of combined some of that stuff, I think that would maybe make it a little bit stronger. But all of the dialogue, love it all. Wouldn't cut any of that. So this movie it's more of a Western than a horror, but the horror elements we get are so brutal and so strong. Pulls no punches, and that really gives it a ton of impact, so that the sparse little bits of horror that we do have are just really, really make this movie what it is. So I fell in love with this movie the first time I saw it, and it is going to be a movie that I continue to revisit over the years. So for me, it is a 4.5 out of 5.
Awesome. 4.5 from Nicole. Juice, how do you feel?
Yeah, I like this film a lot too. And kind of this discussion, what I've kind of landed on is this is on its own, it's a movie that tells a satisfying kind of Western tale, kind of straight down the middle with like the good guys win in the end. And then it has these few key elements that are really exceptional with a little bit of subversion. So, like Chicory is an exceptional element that makes this movie stand out even more. The design of the troglodytes is an exceptional thing that makes this movie stand out even more, and like the kind of brutality and stuff like that. And then the rest is kind of like a kind of middle of the road, or just a kind of solid, as Rob likes to say, meat and potatoes type of Western or whatever. Yeah, meat and potatoes. But so yeah, and kind of also to Nicole's point, the one thing I did kind of another kind of critique, still that middle section again where the Mexican guys come in, they get shot, and I was thinking to have the very next scene where they get the jump on these guys just fell out of character for what they had developed the whole time, because I feel like this guy would have been on extra alert because the situation just happened. Like they move camp to protect themselves from this type of situation, and this situation happens anyways. That just kind of felt like a weird thing. I wish it just would have happened altogether, like you said, like just happened, because then I don't know, it kind of feels weird to do it that way. As I said before, I still kind of would have liked to get these characters at the beginning of the film, just a little tease of the threat. But ultimately, I think the brutality payoff is really worth it. And it has some kills and some scenes that have just always kind of like lived in my mind since the first time I saw this one, and always kind of anticipate them coming up. Like, ooh, this is going to be rough. The characters are for the most part like really endearing. I think they have some good interactions. I think they're fun to follow and hear like how they bounce off of each other. This kind of like these moral questions that they play with is really interesting. And then some of these like subversions of kind of like the guy going out, the male vulnerability of like, I'm dying, all that kind of melting away, seeing those moments that you don't really get in the kind of like Hollywood big shootout in the end, go out as a hero or whatever. So yeah, I liked all that. I think I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
All right. 4 from Juice.
4 stars out of 5, Bob. What you gonna give Bone Tomahawk?
Yeah, I obviously am a pretty big fan of this movie. Something we hadn't mentioned, I think the sound design of their scream, the whistle scream thing, is super haunting. I thought they did a really good job with that. I think the ending is a little, like I alluded to, is a little like kind of stock feeling, where like the happy couple does get reunited, and it's a little like strangely hopeful given how dark the rest of the movie is. But I did find myself wondering, like, they have no horses, no supplies, they're injured, they've got like a 5-day walk back to the town. Like, it's probably unlikely that they do make it back. But I kind of wish the movie would have like maybe highlighted that a little bit, like with a bit of a question mark instead of like a very hopeful, like, walk off into the sunset kind of thing.
With gangrene, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It would have, I think, fit the overall tone and vibe of the movie a little bit better if it had ended on more of a question mark such as that. But otherwise, I think we pretty much touched on everything else that I would want to say. Maybe a little bit more horror because that's what I prefer. But outside of that, really no complaints here. So yeah, I'm gonna come in with a 4 out of 5 as well for Bone Tomahawk. Randeezy, what about you?
Yeah, so this is a lot of times I'll leave room for my love for a movie to grow with time. I think this is a movie that kind of has a little bit of the opposite. I would have probably given this movie a pretty close to a 5 the first time I saw it. I was really taken with it. Over time, multiple viewings has not necessarily yielded the same results though, and I've dipped on this a little bit. And the reason, or the things that I've already brought up, the thing is like a lot of what I brought up is pretty easy for me to get across, pretty easy puddles for me to hop across because there's so much that is just playing to my proclivities. Like the pacing of this, the strong characterizations, the strong acting, the stripped down soundtrack, no soundtrack, the exceptional sort of place setting and immersion, like all those things go a long fucking way for me. I kind of feel like I'm of two minds about like whether or not this is a straight Western done with modern sensibilities, or if it's a straight Western pastiche that's kind of like twisting on it a little bit, or what. But like I feel like there's not enough to really solidly say they're commenting on as much as I would like for them to, with the characterizations that they've set up. Like pretty much everybody in this party is on some level at least 1800s racist or whatever. So it's fair that these characters act that way. But like having one hand wavy scene doesn't necessarily, to me, you know, it doesn't necessarily completely conceal the fact that they're like showing Native American people scalping people, and it's the big horror, and there's nothing redeeming about them. But then there's this hyper racist guy who's got a tragic backstory, so it's kind of okay. And it's like I feel like there could have been more to sort of like show us the error of that way of thinking and how it's a cycle a little bit more, and how these guys may be troglodytes, but whether we like it or not, they are not truly subhuman. Like they are a form of human being. And they're the ugly parts, but so is Bruder. And I don't know, like those are things that get in my head a little bit watching this now. And but like from a complete technical standpoint, all those things I said hold true. I really like a lot about this movie, and Chicory is just a fucking treasure to watch. He's like a Coen Brothers character in the middle of this movie. It's fucking great. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit conflicted about some things, but for the most part, I enjoy this movie quite a bit. And I would say I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. So I think, like I said, I probably would have given this a 5 after watching it the first time, but I think I've soured on it just the slightest bit to where I think a 4 is perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, I have to say I am glad that you brought up some of the like the things that are possibly icky about this movie, because this is the first time I haven't watched this movie in several years, and this is the first time that I kind of felt some of those tensions in the same way about like like
Yeah.
this is a little sensitive, like this is like an entertaining watch, but like is it perpetuating a negative stereotype? Like so it's
Yeah.
totally fair.
And
Yeah,
I
to feel conflicted.
I have to invoke something that I've brought up before, which is the Lindsay Ellis example of a movie that Nazis love despite it being anti-Nazi is American History X, because despite it commenting on whatever it has to comment on, it paints a pretty cool picture of this racist. And this movie might be a little guilty of that. Like there might be some of that where this is not critical enough of those sort of things to where you can't interpret it that way. Like I don't know, like I think it's fair to see this movie in that light. I have a hard time seeing it that way because I like so much about it, and there's so much I think to like about it, so much they did right, and I don't think there's any like insidiousness or intentionality to it. So it's tough for me to be like, fuck this movie. I can't do that. There's too much about it that I A like and B don't see as being intentionally an issue, but I could understand the argument. So that's all.
With Randy's soured score of a 4 even, that puts our aggregate at a 4.1. And as per usual, when you guys pick a movie for us to review, we ask you to send over a voicemail or an email with your own thoughts and ratings. And Nate shot over a voicemail, so let's hear what he's got to say about Bone Tomahawk.
Let's hear it.
What up? It's your boy calling in about my U pick here, Bone Tomahawk. I did not have any history with this movie prior to like a month ago. I had another couple movies I was in line for to pick, and then I told Bob, I said, I'm going to watch Bone Tomahawk, and if that blows my dick off, then I'll pick that one. And he says, oh, it'll cleave your dick right off. And sure enough, it literally did. Yeah, no, it was a good movie, great cast. I think everyone does a pretty good job, especially Kurt Russell. in his role. I think he kills it. Love Richard Jenkins, probably my favorite character, but everyone pretty much kills it there. Yeah, I think it's pretty solid. I think the only real ding I have on it is I don't know if Patrick Wilson really, I don't know if he's very believable in, crawling himself across the desert and taking out a whole clan by himself. But either way, it was enjoyable. Really kind of puts you in their shoes on just kind of, being terrified of what these people are going to do to you. And yeah, I think that delivers on the horror aspect for sure. Overall, though, pretty enjoyable. Hope you guys like watching it and enjoy talking about it. And thanks again. Hard with Bob, semi for Soju. Always hard with Randu as well.
Always.
Eat, healthy. All right.
Man, you got a
Always hard with
tepid
Randy.
review on that one, Soju.
I know, damn.
Nate, he did tell me, he forgot to give his score on this, but he said 4 out of 5 was his rating for
Okay.
Bone Tomahawk.
Okay. Well, he's
Yeah.
not hard with anyone apparently, because it literally cleaved his dick off. So I mean,
Yeah.
No
He's
dick at
very
all.
soft. Air
Literally.
soft.
Damn.
Yeah. I don't know. We didn't talk that much about Patrick Wilson, but like one thing I was thinking about when I was watching this time around is like I kind of don't always trust him to do a good job. I feel like he can be kind of just overly actory in a lot of his roles, but this isn't one of them. I think he sells this one pretty well. The action of getting the stuff that he actually does as a character, definitely like a little beyond the pale, but like as a performance, I think he kind of nails this one. And I wonder if that's kind of normally the case, but I saw like maybe my first exposure to him wasn't great or something, because I feel like every time I see him, it's like, uh-oh, this could go either way.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for picking this flick for us, Nate. Solid choice. I hope your dick grows back, or you figure something out, man. Godspeed.
Science will help.
Good luck with that. But let's go and jump over into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users have to say about Bone Tomahawk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to have these fine folks guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive score is on RottenTomatoes.com for both critic and users for Bone Tomahawk. We're going to start, as we always do, with the critic reviews. Excuse me. And we're going to start with our esteemed guest, Nicole. We've got 103 reviews from our critical pool here. What percentage of those 103 reviews would you imagine to be positive?
I am going to go with an 83.
83. All right. Any is that just a strict guess?
I mean, I don't know. I'm usually, I feel like I'm never very good at the Rotten Tomatoes segment. So I could be totally wrong here. My feelings could be wrong, but I don't know. To me, there's not anything in this movie that makes me think that the critics would just be hating on it. So I don't know. It just feels like a movie that critics would generally like.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, we'll go to Bob now. Bob, where do you think this critical review, these 103 reviews, land aggregation wise?
I think I'm going to go a little higher I'll take an 88, please.
88. All right. Rationale or no?
Feeling frisky.
Okay. All right, great.
Just feels right.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. All right, Juice, what's your completely random number you're going to tell me?
Well, I think I'm just going to play the odds and go a little bit lower and think that maybe the little bit of horror blood in this tainted the well a little bit, because sometimes critics can be weird about stuff like that. So I'll take a 75.
75. All right, let's take a look here. The correct guess is not but 3 percentage points away from glory. And that correct number is 91%. Bob is going to take this with his rando number of 88.
Whoa. How do
One
you
with
say-
the critics.
How do you say hell skeet in a southern accent, Bob? In a western accent?
That's it. That's how you say it right there.
That's the
No
one.
more.
All right, let's jump on over to our audience score. Rather, there are 10,000 plus audience ratings on this film. I'll start in reverse order with Soju. Why don't you tell me what you think those 10,000 ratings place this movie aggregate positive score wise?
Hot damn! I think I might have to go a little bit higher. I guess I'll take The Boys 86 Project.
80. All right. Who did Bob know? My brain is shutting down. Bob, what about you?
Bob's the meat.
What about Bob? 86. I'll go with I'll take an 80 even.
80 even. All right, Nicole, round us out. We got an 86, we got an 80. Where do you think this audience is going with this?
I mean, I think that the audience probably liked it at least as much as the critics did. So I'm going to go with a 93.
Ooh,
93. Ooh, Delali.
it's a good year.
There, let me see. Let me do a little quick brain power here. Okay, so the winning number is only 6 percentiles away from glory, and that correct number is 74%. Bob is going to take a second win here with his 80%
Sweep and
guess.
skeet tonight.
Bob,
The
I have
sweep is so
something for you.
sweet.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
The skeet
That's-
sweep is
that's
so
my-
sweet, eh, Bob?
Yeet-haw,
Say that
Bob.
5 times. Yeehaw!
Yeet.
Yeehaw! Woo!
All right. Let's read the critics' consensus. It says Bone Tomahawk's peculiar blend won't be for everyone, but its gripping performances and slow-burning story should satisfy those in search of something different.
Different.
Kind of broad, but okay.
Sure.
Yes,
Sure.
sure.
Yeah. All right. And now, as always, we're going to read a little bit of negative reviews for funsies. Let's see how angry and or humorous these make me. Let's see. Unlike great westerns that have come before it, Bone Tomahawk isn't one that takes its time to develop its character and story. How do we feel
It
about
takes
that?
plenty of time.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, it's got so much time.
It doesn't
Like
take time to
100
develop its.
minutes.
Don't know
What
how
the
much
fuck?
more time
Most
you could
of
give
this-
it.
Most of the first 2/3 of this movie is people talking to each other and developing characters.
That's pretty much
And
all the
story.
movie is
Yeah.
until the
Mhm.
last 20 minutes.
Yeah, the action is sparse for a while there.
And even
Interesting.
amidst like the action, there is still a lot of deep character development going on. It's not like it's taking a back seat. Damn.
All right, here's one speaking to Justin's comment about critics not liking blood so much. It is mostly just an excuse for the debut director, S. Craig Zoller, to whip out the rug from under you, Tarantino style. Yeah, what a dirty trick he played on us by having an action-filled climax.
I mean,
It's
In
yeah,
a
all
movie
Bone
called
Tomahawk.
Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all
Yeah.
kind of heading toward that too. It feels like a pretty natural conclusion.
Yeah.
What do you think's gonna happen when you get there? They're gonna offer
Yeah, if
tea? Like, what is
Pulling the
this?
rug would be if they got there and nothing happened. Like I'm expecting that to happen.
It's just a bunch of puppies, and they're like, oh, yay.
So clearly, to my mind, this guy is coming at it from a preview. I didn't think this movie about people getting taken captive by cannibals was going to be gory.
Yeah. They really pulled the rug on me.
What a
all
dirty,
right.
dirty trick to
I feel
play.
like they kind of telegraphed that from the very beginning, my guy.
How dare this movie have a bone tomahawk in it? I won't stand for it.
Ooh.
False
Oh
advertising.
man. And here's one, the last one I'll read at random. Equal parts technically brilliant and racially repugnant. Bone Tomahawk offers up the very worst of the Western genre xenophobia in a brutal package. I don't know if I'd go quite that far, but I think that it's like definitely unintentionally
You could
touching
argue it.
some nerves. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you definitely can argue it. I think
Yeah.
for sure. And that's maybe more than enough of a sin in this day and age than doing it intentionally. I don't know. I feel like they take actual actions to try and prevent that reading, it's just a little too little, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think to say that it's the worst of the genre, I don't think so. I think any number of
I guarantee that it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of like fucking what's that dude's name? The Duke. What's his name? Fucking
John Wayne.
John Wayne. Thank you.
That dude.
I think you could probably find a few John Wayne movies that are a little more racially
Bob?
insensitive than this one.
Me? No, not me. Yeah, I concur, Randy, for sure.
All right, that's it for Rotten Tomatoes. Bob, how's that trivia section looking?
There's not a ton. We can go ahead and skip it and do a real quick Cooter of the week.
Straight chillin'.
Cooter of the week.
Juice. What is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Oh, Cooter's character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, but we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points of Cooterdom will be explained to us in full by Nicole herself. Nicole, please give us the 5 points of Cooterdom.
Okay. Smug arrogance, sexual deviance, manipulation, look and attire, and patheticness.
Woo!
Nailed it.
Wow, there you go.
True
That's-
Cooter hunter right there.
That's a yeet haul.
Go ahead and put that on the resume. Certified hunter.
Don't just put that on your resume.
All right. Is there anyone who stands out? I would say probably to Randy. I know Randy's going to want to jump on this one, but our boy Jack from Lost. What's his name?
We have to go back. Stings.
Have to
Brooder.
go, yeah, Brooder. So what do we think? Smug arrogance, I would say yes.
Chief
Yeah.
among them, besides the,
Yeah.
Yeah. He's looking
Which is-
fly though.
He
I
looks
mean,
very fly.
That-
Yeah.
no
that
looking
little small
attire.
brim hat looks good on him. I gotta give it to him.
Yeah.
That son of a
Small.
bitch.
Yeah.
Although I think his look and attire like definitely is part of the smug arrogance though. Like everybody else is just cowboyed up and he's like a dandy. You know, he's
Oh, yeah,
gotta
he's got
like
his
look better
German-
than everyone else.
Yeah.
You
His
know?
German looking glass. He's
Yeah, the
very-
German.
The German.
the German.
Sure. I
And
love
sheriff,
when he-
look through the German.
When he
Like,
buys
fucking
the songs from the piano player, I love that whole interaction.
Oh,
We didn't
That's a
mention
cool
that.
interaction. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's so fun to watch in this movie, and he's such a piece of shit. Yeah, so like the racial stuff, clearly repugnant and definitely worthy of a patheticness score from me.
And
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
like salty about Samantha because he wanted to like be
Yeah.
with her and she rejected him,
Yeah.
and he's clearly upset about it. So that's a little pathetic as well.
But
Well,
to
he's
be
willing
fair,
to-
no sexual deviance. He's never acting out of line though.
Well, he makes some
Yeah.
offhanded comments that I think are pretty fucking brutal to say to a man who is trudging through the wilderness.
It
to save his
is,
wife
yeah,
on a
but not
busted
sexual
leg, but
deviance. Yeah.
No,
He's
I think
just a
that's
prick.
part of the
He's-
smart.
yeah,
not
he's
part
just
of
kind
the
of
a- Yeah, cocky son
And
of
also a
bitch.
murderer.
Yeah, and also a brutal murderer
Well,
with a
Yeah,
with a-
no.
a completely
no one's
understandable
perfect.
backstory. No, yeah, you win some, you lose
Got
some.
a
You know.
break. You only killed 100 folks or whatever he said.
So yeah, I don't
Um,
know if he's gonna hit high enough though, because also manipulation. He's not really
Manipulation.
manipulating anybody.
Everybody in this movie is for the most part pretty straight.
pretty
like-
straight, yeah. And he's even. I
Pretty
mean, as
straightforward.
he is, quite a son of a bitch, but at the same time too, he's like duty bound. He's like, hey, you know what? I need to help y'all because I was the one who escorted her over here. So
Yeah,
you know
which
what?
is-
I would argue that that's at least partially
Respectable.
on his ego as well, but you can read
Yeah.
it that way, sure.
That's fair. Yeah.
Could be.
Can we do maybe David Arquette and Sid Haig?
Okay.
Combo with them.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Why don't you start us off, Bob?
Patheticness.
Yeah, I think patheticness is when murdering people in their sleep and robbing them is definitely pathetic. I don't know if you
Sid-
call that manipulation. Yeah,
I
Sid
don't know.
Haig.
Sid Haig's thing where he's like, my dad knew a guy who used to be a doctor, and he said that's how you cut throats. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what the fuck? He's so confident and so
His smug arrogance. He also says something shitty about like We don't have time for your womanly imaginings or whatnot.
Yeah. I loved that line. I loved
Yeah.
it.
More
Phrasing
Sid
in this
Haig in
movie
this
is
movie
so
would
great.
have been nice. He's on screen for like
Yeah.
2 minutes and extremely memorable.
Yeah.
So that'd be 2. No sexual deviance, I guess.
He's kind of manipulative in a way, and like the way he's kind of like guiding this like David Arquette along, kind of. I don't know. He's definitely the head of a not like good, straightforward group, I guess. I don't know. It just kind of seems like he's the leader of a
Talking about
shady.
arrogance for him?
Well, no, kind of like
Or-
manipulation. Like, is he kind of like manipulating David Arquette in
I
some
don't
kind of
see
ways?
it as that. I see it as more like a Laurel and Hardy thing, where he's just like the slightly smarter one.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're all pretty greasy though. So like attire.
Looking attire. That's
Yeah,
fine.
but I thought about that, but at the same time, like they're out in the fucking wilderness. I don't know if I'd be looking hot out there. You know,
You would
You gotta
be,
pop that
Randy.
shirt off. That's
Yeah.
all, you know.
Yeah.
They look typical of the time.
All
Randy
right.
has
Yeah,
the
they-
complexion that would fare very well in the West.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God.
I would be. There's literally no way I would have survived the West. Period, because the sun exists and I am me. So
Randy would just
I
be
would have been
a
a
giant
fucking-
walking melon.
yeah,
God damn.
yeah, yeah, probably. I'd be that, or just like a fucking grease spot on the ground, just a red
Just a
spot.
puddle. Damn. Yeah. So do they hit enough? Looking attire. Oh no, we said no on that. So
I think it's like
smug
a halfway
arrogance,
on that.
patheticness,
Yeah.
no manipulation.
Sexual
you
deviancy is
said.
not
No
really-
deviancy. You feel like they
Yeah.
would be if given a chance, but we don't see it. So
Mhm.
Right.
Can't assume.
well, you
This is the
can,
thing.
but we try to keep it straight.
Shan't assume.
You're on.
We're only
you're on Straight
corrupted
Chillin'
sometimes.
Cast. We, you know, sometimes it does happen. We find somebody who is a piece of shit, but not a cooter. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's where we're at right now.
It is what
There's
it
a
is.
few
Yeah.
of them.
However,
yeah.
there are some other characters in here, and the one that I'm thinking of is actually 12, and it's a fucking tribe of troglodytes. So,
Oh.
I would say sexual deviance up the ass. I would
Sexual
say-
deviance? Oh,
Yes.
Who do you think I'm talking about right now?
I was like, wait, what? I thought you were insinuating that they
you
like
forget
raped
about
the woman,
the
but then,
armless,
yeah, the
legless women
armless,
with
legless
fucking
women. That
pikes
shit's
in their
terrible.
eyes?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's
So
just
yes,
their
yeah.
culture, okay?
right.
Oh yeah, the cultural relativism is stark in here today.
Yeah, we can give them that
So
one.
manipulation.
Oh, wow.
I mean, hunting. You could say is a form. I don't know.
Looking
know where
at
to
tire.
see
I
it.
don't think they're gonna hit enough
Looking at
points.
tire. They got the. Shit, I don't know.
They
Like
look
it's kind of tough.
Great, like Nicole said.
They look
They
great.
look
Fantastic.
real
They look
sharp.
great.
I can't wait for the Cannibal of the Month calendar to come out. These guys are going to be looking good.
I really appreciate your cultural attire, troglodytes.
Jesus Christ.
Mm.
I don't know. It's tough to say because they're just so dehumanized. But
Yeah.
And they don't have any kind of like unique personality, like as
Justin,
individuals.
how dare.
Well, I'm sure.
I will stand by the idea that they are an offshoot of humanity and therefore should not be completely written off as inhuman. But we aren't given. I think they're unknowable to us because
Yeah.
they're unknowable to our lead characters. In so many ways that I don't know. It's tough to pin them down. But I
Yeah.
just want to give them some lip service too because I mean, if there's sexual deviance in this movie, Jesus Christ, they're the ones.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's gonna be one for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Sure. We got him.
You know.
Well, no,
Kinda.
well, not really. No,
We didn't. We got him. We didn't get him. We
They got no
we're-
cooters.
I don't
You
think
know,
there's
but-
cooters in this film.
We got some low line
Sure.
hooters in waiting
All right.
here.
Just keep an eye out. Yeah, so we got no voicemails this week. If you guys are listening, would like to call in and leave voicemail, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We're going to be back next week with a brand new show. As always, we're going to be talking about whatever wins the March poll, which is currently on our Patreon website. So get those votes
All
in by the end
bets
of the
are
month.
off.
And yeah, we'll see what we're talking about next week very shortly here. Nicole, thank you so much for sitting in with us yet again. It's always a pleasure having you on. An OG for sure. So thanks for riding with us for as long as you have.
Of course, it's always great to be on, and I was really thrilled to talk about this movie because I love it so much.
Rad. And be sure to check out Light and Shadow podcast everywhere you get your podcasts.
Yes, and we are at the end of Women in Horror Month. My most recent episode is Silent Hill with Jacqueline from A Cut Above. It was a really fun episode. So of course, this is my last appearance in Women in Horror Month, so I would be remiss to not mention that.
Going out with a bang. Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah, you can find us on all the social media websites. Just search Straight Chilling Podcast. If you want to find us on Slack, just let us know you'd like to join on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link so you can do so. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Yeehaw, everyone.
Yeah!